Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on the webinar today. My name is Damien, and I'm an account manager for AMS, and I'm joined by my colleague Neil, who will be taking us through a demo of the software later. Hi, everyone. Before we start, I just wanted to go through a bit of housekeeping. When you joined, there should be a dialog box that opened in the bottom right-hand corner. There should be a text box where you can type in any questions that you might have during the webinar. We'll be doing a bit of a Q&A session at the end where we'll cover the questions that have been raised. And there should also be a full screen mode that will really help during the demo. So if you haven't already, you might want to click View and Full Screen. So it's probably worth explaining a bit about who AMS and DocuWare are. DocuWare are the manufacturers of the document management software that we supply and support. We, AMS, are a technology company and we're situated in Bournemouth. We specialize in software solutions for document management and secure information exchange. We're a supplier and support center for solutions including DocuWare, Managed File Transfer, CloudFax, and WriteFax. AMS and DocuWare are both well-established companies with over 50 years experience between us, and we are a DocuWare Gold partner, which means all of our team are fully trained consultants and engineers. We also provide custom development services if you have a bespoke requirement. DocuWare itself is a mature and trusted solution used worldwide with over 18,000 customers and 500,000 users. So today, the plan is to find out how the software could help your organization. So what is DocuWare? DocuWare is a very comprehensive document management solution with modules available for almost all requirements. Some of the key departments that use DocuWare include finance, HR, sales, and purchasing, but any department with a document-driven process can take advantage of the software. Today, we're going to be very specific and focus on one process and one department, but you may find the topics we discuss relate to other areas within your business. So let's start with a typical accounts payable process. Invoices arrive by post or email and sent to the accounts team. They are often registered with the finance system to generate a reference number or stamped. Then copies are assigned to the relevant cost center and sent to the authorizer via internal post or scanned and emailed. If approved, the invoices are signed or stamped and referenced with a budget code and sent back to accounts for processing. And once returned, the invoice is registered with the finance system and queued for payment. Paper invoices are then filed away or electronic copies stored in some kind of network directory structure for future reference. So here are some typical challenges that our customers raise when talking about their invoice process. The authorization process is laborious and takes a long time. Sometimes this can result in late payments, which doesn't go down well with our suppliers. Mistakes can happen, and losing or misfiling an invoice can cause serious problems. We waste a lot of time searching for a document or creating a duplicate. It's difficult to know where invoices are in the approval process. It could be sat on someone's desk while on a holiday, or maybe buried under a load of other documents, and the whole process comes to a halt. For those clients still using paper, there can be a cost associated with filing cabinets and archive boxes. It's also very time-consuming, destroying documents that have passed their retention period. And if something happened like a natural disaster and we lost everything, what would happen to the business? We're spending a lot of time looking for documents, and it's a real headache for the team when there's a lot to do and a large proportion of our time is spent on administration. And if managers are on holiday or out of the office, they can't access or authorize invoices, which causes delays and bottlenecks in the whole process. So if it's okay with everybody, we'd like to do a quick poll. Now that we've discussed some of the issues that are often raised by our customers, maybe we can find out what issues are most important for you. So Neil is just going to launch the poll, so you should see that pop up on your screens. If you wouldn't mind, it'd be great if you could select the options that might relate to your business so we can get an idea of kind of what relates to you. Okay, so hopefully we've published that. And it looks like for the people that attended the webinar today, lost documents seems to be the biggest issue that is affecting your accounts payable process, followed closely by kind of the bottlenecks and the delays in that process. Now, what we're going to do is have a look at the software itself. see how that works so that you guys can get an idea of how it might work within your department. At this point, I'll hand over to Neil so he can take you through a quick demo.
Brilliant. Thanks, Damien. Hi, everyone. Great stuff. So really just to give you an overview of the demo that we're about to go through, it shouldn't last too long, but I actually have DocuWare installed here on my laptop, and all of the Windows accounts you see on the bottom left, they actually cover a particular department and process of a business. For the purpose of the demo, we've actually created a fictitious business called Peter's Engineering, and they manufacture and sell roller coasters. Once I log in as Peggy, our accounts administrator, I'll just take you through a very quick overview of the DocuWare web interface, how to index these invoices during the process and store them away, how to sign these to a cost center, and then also we'll come back and just look how to search for them once they are stored away centrally. So if I just quickly sign in. Now, this is the main DocuWare web interface. It's cross-browser, cross-device enabled. And really, if we just go from the top left first, where we have our document trays, and these are really like virtual trays. So they're like your document trays that sit on your desk. You can have access to multiple trays. I'm just going to demonstrate one today. The document pool option are your searches, so where you search for information in different filing cabinets. Again, you could have potential access to multiple document searches depending on the document you're looking for. Lists are really saved searches, so you could find things like contracts that expire within the next 3 months, as an example. Tasks are created as a result of a workflow action. We will touch on tasks today during the AP invoice approval process. And folders are really more of a Windows Explorer view of where your documents are stored. So for those that are familiar with that sort of structure, they're able to quickly drill down and find information. Okay, so coming on to these 4 documents that you can see, they've actually been scanned in via a scanner. It could have been like a USB scanner, just a big MFP device, or maybe a Twain scan device attached to your PC. But essentially, they've all been scanned in. There's 4 invoices there. They originally started off as 6 documents, and they've been split by barcodes that existed on the first page of every invoice. And there's actually a unique feature in DocuWare called intelligent indexing, and this actually reduces the time users spend filing documents as it automatically populates the index fields for you. So with these 4 invoices, you'll see they do have a color code on them, so it's like a traffic light system. Green is really just showing the confidence level of the index information selected. So it's highly confident, it's seen the document type before, it's gone through a learning progression, maybe 2 or 3 times, and it's labeled it a green. Yellow is just needs checking over before we process it. Red, which we aren't showing any of, but generally it's if the system hasn't seen that document type before. It doesn't mean that it's going to be inaccurate with the information it finds, it just means that it needs training over that 3 or 4 times as you received the same invoices from the same supplier. So if we go ahead and store a couple of these invoices, we've got this US Steel invoice, which we'll just load up. And we'll load up our store dialog. You'll notice, as I mentioned before, all of the field labels are green. So I'm actually confident that the system recognizes the information. And what it's actually done is automatically scanned the document, and it's pulled this information across from the right to the left to fill out the index criteria for us. And that is an automatic process. So you'll see I've just highlighted the document number, a field on the left, which is actually highlighted where it's got that information from on the right in yellow. And that's what it's done for most of these fields if they haven't been predefined prior to the process. So we go ahead and store these documents away. The next one that we'll come to is this Phone Wizard invoice. A little bit of a different document. obviously it's not an invoice as such, there'll be no order number on it, but it's more of a phone bill. So we'll go ahead and store this away. I'm happy again that the information is correct. There's no other information in terms of the fields that I need to fill out to restore that. The rapid transport invoice, again, we'll just go ahead and store this one. This one in particular, I'll show you how we deal with two-way matching in a second, but I'll just store that away so that it goes into the process. And finally, we've got this storage experts invoice. This one does have a couple of bits of key information missing. You'll notice some of the index fields are green, so it does recognize that, it's confident in the information it's already collected. The other information that's yellow, it doesn't mean that it's incorrect, it just means that we need to sort of train it. So the next time we store this document, it will actually add to the confidence level. So I've highlighted the field name on the left, company, and on the right side, I've just found the company on the invoice, and I use the quick select tool. So it's the case of just clicking down on the mouse, dragging over the company name, and it fills it out on the left side. So even for information that is missing, that during this learning progression, it's actually very quick and easy to enter in the information. So we just need to pop in the order number. So we've got our order here. There's a due date that's missing just at the bottom, which I'll highlight and put in. There is a net amount here, and there's actually no tax amount on here. So we can go ahead and store that document away. Brilliant. So I don't know whether you noticed during that process, but I've now been assigned 4 tasks within my task workflow. So these have been really assigned to me because I'm the next level of the workflow process. So it could have been someone else, but for ease of demoing this, I'm the next person in that. So we'll go ahead and assign some of these to the relevant cost center. You'll notice the bottom one is already at pay invoice, and that's actually because if I just show you and go to the related documents, it's done a two-way match on the order and the invoice that's come in. So the information that it had to match was the order number. So you'll see the column order number, they match, and the gross amount. There is one other thing that it matched as well, and that the invoice was under a certain amount. But that's done a two-way match for us. So that can just be handled by essentially booking it in or paying it. So for the purpose of that, we'll just book that into the system. There we go. I don't know whether you can see that. And we just assign that to HR and hit confirm. And what that's doing in the background is just stamping that record. If there was another part of the workflow, it would notify somebody else, but we'll go through that now with the other invoices that we're going to assign. So the next one that I'm going to work with is the US Steel invoice. So we'll just wait for that page to load quickly. This one in particular will be assigned to manufacturing. So we can just assign that there. The Phone Wizard invoice is actually a split invoice and will be assigned to 2 different departments. I use the stamp for this one just to show you that there is a stamp feature available as well. But this one will be split between both manufacturing and sales. And you'll notice the stamp is either going to be in text format. We do support images as well, or signatures. And really what you're doing is just finding a blank space on the document to place that. If it's done automatically, it just finds the nearest available white space. Finally, we'll just assign this storage exports invoice to human resources. So we'll just load that. And now that's my tasks dealt with. What I'll do quickly now is log in as Brian Ford. Now, Brian is actually our manufacturing manager, and he would have received a couple of these invoices. He would have been email notified rather than a bit of paper being put on his desk. These emails, as you can see, that have come in, these can be customized. So we've got the two that need authorizing. The message body and the subjects can be customized, as well as the links within the emails. So if I click on this US Steel email, you'll notice there's a link for invoice, and there's a link to view all of your available tasks that need actioning. So if we just click on that one and log into the system, and these are my two invoices that need checking over. So we've got our US Steel one, and it's a case of either approving or rejecting them. These decisions or this part of the process can be highly customized. We just chose approve or reject, and you can also have reasons in there that are already populated. In our case, we'll just go ahead and confirm that on the US Steel invoice, and again, we'll just confirm that on the part of the phone was a bill. Great. So as a result of the US Steel invoice being approved, because it's over a certain amount, it's actually gone off to our CFO. In this case, it's Elizabeth Cash, and it just needs further approval, really, because it's actually over 5,000. So when that email comes through, she'll be able to, again, click on the link for invoice and log in. And you can imagine if this was in the paper world, obviously it'd be a very lengthy process, or even via email as well, it could take some time. So we've just got the approved or rejected options on this one. There's nothing else to do. And just to point out on the right side on the images, on the invoices that have been stored, you can also see the stamps that have previously been put on. And these are literally just overlays over the document. So if you were to print it or you were to save it somewhere else, you can save them without those overlays. So we just hit confirm. And what we'll do now is just log back in as Peggy Jenkins, our accounts administrator. And part of the next process really is paying these invoices, but also showing you how to alleviate bottlenecks in the process. So if I just pay one of these invoices, and then I'll show you how to find invoices that maybe are stuck in the process. So you'll notice that up here under tasks, we have a monitor task section. So when we click on that, what this does, given the permission, it gives me that holistic overview of where these invoices are in the process. It could be another document type, and you're able to actually scroll to the right and find out who these invoices are with and where the bottleneck lies, really. From here, you could click on one of these entries and reassign it to somebody else. This could also happen automatically if within DocuWare they've put their out of office on. So it's very easy to actually reassign those and authorize those separately as well. Okay, so that's the authorization process. I thought maybe it'd be very good to just show you quickly searching for documents. So we actually stored away an invoice that belonged to a company called US Steel. Now this search dialog is customized to search for certain document types, and this is just one for the demo. But you'll notice I've started typing in US and it's recognized that it already exists. So if I just hit search, it actually does a blanket search on US Steel and finds all documents that I have permission to view and brings them back in this list, including the invoice that I've just stored away. If I change that and also specifically put in the document type of invoice in, you'll notice that it just brings back the one entry. Again, if I go back and change it and reset this, in our case, all documents have been OCR'd, so they are full text searchable. So it might be a year down the line, you might not remember the index criteria or data that was stored against the document. So you may well have to use the full text search to pick out elements of that document or keywords. So if I just search for the word ocean, and it's found a couple of documents, in particular the invoice in that I've just stored away. And I don't know whether you can see that, but in red, it's actually highlighted it on the page. And from there, using the tools also that are available on the document search, you could then find the next keyword within that document if there are any. So it's highly powerful. Brilliant. So if I right click on this invoice in, just to show you one last thing, we could look at the full history of not only the workflow and the automatic activities that have happened during that process, but we can also look for the lifetime of the document, what's happened to it, who's interacted with it. And this is all centrally recorded, and these options are permission-based as well. So not everyone has to have this level of access.
Great, thanks, Neil. And I appreciate we've only had a short amount of time to show you a small snippet of what DocuWare can do. If you did have any other interest in some of the features that we've shown or maybe not shown, then we can always look at those for you at a later date. Okay, so let's look at some of the reasons why companies might implement a document management solution. One of the biggest drivers we see is time to process an invoice and time spent administering the process. The electronic workflow and email notifications that we've just seen in Neil's demo will help keep the invoice moving through the approval process and speed up the invoice turnaround time and avoid late payments. Customers have also experienced better relationships with their suppliers and less complaints because documents are not lost or misfiled, and users can find documents quickly to answer invoice queries. Reducing paper is generally a key strategy for most businesses. With DocuWare, you will be able to save all of your documents electronically, eliminating the cost and space required to store physical documents. Having a slicker and more controlled workflow reduces the administration overhead on users and can make a big difference to team morale. Users have the time they need to spend on more productive tasks rather than administration. And using the monitoring tools in DocuWare, managers can see where every invoice is, whether it's overdue, whether it's been stuck at a particular stage for too long, and this will help you identify bottlenecks and avoid delays. We also have native apps for Android and iOS, so users and managers can access information on the move and authorize or reject invoices regardless of location. So DocuWare is available in two flavors, on-premise or in the cloud. Now we can work with you to find out the best fit for your organization, but here are some common reasons why you might choose one or the other. So with cloud, there's no installation. To get started, all you need is a URL, and the client runs on all mainstream web browsers. It's maintenance free, so DocuWare Cloud runs around the clock, so you don't have to worry about managing a server, particularly useful if you need to reduce your IT overhead. And DocuWare Cloud is available to you whether at home, in the office, or traveling. All you need is an internet connection. As for the cost, we have a range of packages to suit all requirements, and the core DocuWare modules are all included with Cloud. The key consideration with Cloud is the number of user licenses that are required, and pricing is based on an annual subscription with some one-off costs for some professional services. On-premise, this tends to be like a personal preference. Some people just prefer to have their systems in their own network, and some organizations are very strict about storing data off-premise. This is generally the key driver why businesses might choose on-premise over cloud. While cloud includes all the core DocuWare modules, on-premise is a modular solution, so pricing is made up of the server license, the modules required to provide the required functionality, the user licenses, and then professional services. These are all one-off costs, and the only ongoing costs that need to be considered is really the annual support figure. Okay, so we're coming to the end of the webinar. So just to summarize what we've discussed, AMS have the experience and resource to support you throughout the review and the delivery of your project. It doesn't have to be a daunting experience, and most customers can be up and running in a couple of weeks. DocuWare is a mature and trusted solution used worldwide, and we can make a real difference to the account payable process by managing the movement of the invoice through each step and streamlining the whole workflow. As an organisation, you'll be able to improve customer service and increase productivity by making it easy to search and retrieve documents, eliminating wasted time and frustration. I hope that's been useful. Now we will kind of look through the questions that have been raised in the webinar, and I'll hand over to Neil and see if he can retrieve the list.
Brilliant. Okay, so the first question we've had is, with the cloud option, where is the data stored? So the data is actually backed in a Microsoft Azure data center based in Dublin, in Ireland. And for the backups, data is actually synchronized to Amsterdam. So this actually complies with the EU data protection laws.
Cool. Okay. So we've got another one here. We receive a lot of our invoices via email. How do we save those into DocuWare?
Okay, so to answer that question, there's actually an Outlook connector which we were unable to show you during this demo, but essentially once that's installed, it allows you to save documents directly from Outlook into DocuWare, and we really call it the Outlook archive as such.
Okay, so we mentioned scanning, and we got a question here about scanning large batches, which could have multiple pages per invoice. How would the system handle that? So there's a couple of ways during the import of these documents that we can handle the split of these documents. So it's via the import profiles that we create, but essentially they can be split by numerous ways, maybe by number of pages. It could be split by keyword, or if there's a reference like an invoice number that's changed on the document, so we can recognize that change essentially and split it, or we can use separator pages with barcodes on them, or maybe like in our case the barcode existed on the first page of every invoice. So there's a couple of ways that we can split these documents. Okay, and I think just one last question we've got: how does the system interface with accounting applications such as Sage? So we've got a couple of options here. We have a universal connector. Again, we didn't have time to show it today, but we have a universal called Smart Connect, which allows you to retrieve documents from within any finance application, or any application for that matter. If you're looking for the other way, so integrating the data from the invoices that you've stored, we have a custom export tool which we've developed, and that can be used to extract data from the invoices that you've stored and export those to like a CSV file, which could be imported using or imported by the finance application such as Sage. But it's something we could sit down with you and figure out how your process works, and then kind of tailor that to integrate with your systems. So I think we'll finish up with questions, and if we wrap up, thank you very much for your time today. If this webinar has raised some questions or uncovered something that you would like to achieve within your business, I'd be keen to hear from you. If you have our email addresses, please feel free to contact us directly, or we have a generic email address, sales@ams-ltd.com. We offer services to help you find out how this might work for you, such as a personalized one-to-one web demo or a free trial account. And after the webinar, there is a survey when you kind of close the webinar window. If you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes to complete that, it would really help us find out how we did today and what you found most useful. Thanks again for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks very much.